We are so close to the Beijing Olympics. We're getting all very, very excited here at Off the Podium, as is every single Olympic fan right now. And we are extra excited today to welcome another guest to the show who is going to be competing in Beijing in only a matter of days in the sport of skeleton, a sport that we haven't actually had an athlete on in quite some time. So I'm very excited to go back to skeleton to talk about a sport which I think everybody loves at the Winter Olympics. It's such a great sport to be able to watch. He's heading into his very first Olympic Games with some great form. He recently finished 19th in the World Cup, a top finish for him. Also won the North America's Cup as well, and world ranking of 32 heading into the Olympics. So there's lots to get excited for today's guest, and we're going to learn a little bit more about his season and everything else going into the Olympics. Pleasure to welcome off the podium the one, the only, Mr. Nick Timmings. Nick, first of all, welcome to the show. It's exciting to have you on the program today.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Ben. Yeah, I'm excited.
It's an exciting time. We were just talking about off air about how, again, so close to the Olympics. You've just literally been named as part of the team, your first ever Olympics. I mean, how can you put that into words to officially hear that you are an Olympian, that you are going to an Olympic Games, and that it is so close now, Nick, that you can sniff it. You can sniff the ice and the snow of Beijing, I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't know if words can really put into what we feel when we get announced and are officially on the Olympic team. I don't think it's quite sunk in completely yet. I think when I get on the plane to actually go to China, I think it'll start creeping in a bit more then. And then I think when I'm in the opening ceremony, I think that's when it will really hit.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's kind of one of those things where some athletes I know say they will officially classify themselves as an Olympian the moment they're on the starting line. Some take it from the moment they're announced or the opening ceremony. I mean, is it something that you've kind of thought about, that you will classify yourself as having made it to the Olympics on the start line? Anything? I mean, or are you already saying that right now because you've been announced? You're an Olympian. You know, they can't take that away from you now.
I'm still a little nervous, with all the situation around the world. But I think once I put that uniform on, then I'll classify myself as an Olympian. So I think it's once you get that Australian Olympic uniform on, I think that's when it'll hit me that I'm an Olympian.
And do you know when? Do you get it when you get to Beijing? Is it on the way now? Because again, that's also, as you were saying, an exciting moment to open it up, and there it is. There's the emblem, the green and gold, all of that kind of stuff on the way to you.
Yeah, so it'll be waiting for me when I get to Beijing. I'm in Austria at the moment, so I think them sending it here, then me having it to take over there was too much logistical. Too much of a dilemma. So I think they're just going to take it there. I'm going to meet it there, and that's when I'll have it.
All the exciting things I can imagine going with that. It's a question I'm sure, Nick, though, you've been asked 1,000 times in your career as a skeleton athlete. How do you get involved in skeleton? Because I believe you were a bit of a late starter to the sport. So how did it all come about for you?
Well, for a country like Australia, so I started at 21. That's not really a late start, just because obviously there's no opportunity to do skeleton locally here. It does require a lot of time, effort, and money. So I think around that late teens to early 20s age is pretty normal for a lot of nations who don't actually have a track. So it's not that late of a start, and the longevity of a skeleton slider's career can span to late 30s. So even if you do start a bit later, you do have a lot of time in the sport. And if anyone wants to start late, definitely don't worry about it. You can get to that level even in your mid to late 30s.
So you're saying I still have a chance then, basically, as a 34-year-old at the time of this interview, that maybe, hey, if I decide in the coming months to take it up, that, Milan 2026, I could be in with a crack.
Definitely, yeah. Give it a go.
All right. Okay. I'm still trying to break that streak of being Tasmania's first ever Winter Olympian. We're the only state or territory to never have had a Winter Olympian. So, look, I'm always trying to find an in somewhere to create history for Tasmania.
I didn't actually know that, so yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I actually recently just went through all the numbers of Winter Olympians from Australia, and we've had Winter Olympians from the Northern Territory and the ACT, but Tasmania is the solitary state or territory that we have not had one. But and I don't know if you're aware, you're the first male skeleton athlete from Western Australia too, only the second from Western Australia. So there's a stat that you can add to your list there as well. So little things like that are great to kind of, I guess, keep in your back pocket for a trivia night in the future potentially.
Yeah, there you go. If they ask me that question, I'll guess I'll know it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. But when it came to making that decision to go into skeleton, sort of were you approached? Was it something that you kind of looked into? Because I remember talking to Emma Lincoln-Smith a long time ago, and she sort of got the letter in the mail saying like, "Hey, have you thought about trying out for skeleton?" So was it kind of one of those invitation-based things, or was there another connection that got you into the sport?
No, I kind of fell into it. So the National Federation was just going around Australia, like holding these like recruitment camp, like testing camps. And I knew a couple of people who were doing bobsled. I was training athletics with them at the time. So I knew that this like testing day was coming around, and like a couple of people said, just like, why don't you just go try it? Like, even if you don't um, like want to do the sport, at least you can get some numbers on the board, and yeah, like treat it as a training session. So I ended up going to that testing day, and then yeah, kind of got invited from there, and yeah, that's how it happened for me. So I kind of fell into it, and then yeah, once I tried it, I loved it. So yeah, that's how it started. I kind of just fell into it.
Was it something that you were overly familiar with? Had you watched it at the Olympics before, or met any? I mean, if you said you knew some bobsled athletes, had you come across any of the other Aussie skeleton racers at that time?
Yeah, so in our athletics training group, we had like two bobsledders at the time, and Lucy Schaefer, who went to the Sochi Olympics, was actually training with us at the same time. So yeah, I did know about all the sliding sports. Um, so yeah, I was familiar with that at the time, and that's kind of yeah what I guess was the incentive to just even try out at the time.
And did any of your bobsled mates try to get you into bobsled? Was that kind of a temptation there as well to maybe give that a bit of a crack?
Not really. So my body shape is a lot more suited to skeleton rather than bobsled, and I knew like yeah, if I went down the bobsled road, I wouldn't be able to get to that top level. So it was always skeleton for me from the beginning.
What is it like when you do those trials and then you go to that point where you get onto a sled the very first time? I mean, is there kind of a training regimen you've got to do before you can get onto a sled, or do they literally throw you in the deep end? You go somewhere in the world to a track, here's a sled, boom, you are going down there right now to experience this literally head first.
So when we got there, we thought we would do like, it was a 2 week camp. We thought like the first couple of days might be like theory, learning, like all this stuff, like getting to know it. But literally we got there the first day, they were like, lie down, put a helmet on, and they literally kicked us off. Luckily it wasn't from the very top of the hill, but
Wow.
yeah, so we were all a bit shocked about that. But I think that's kind of how you need to just get into the sport, is just do it. Like, they just throw you off, and you either love it or you hate it. And yeah, I think that's how they separate the people who they think will be able to do it and want to do it, and the people who say, no, I can't do this, and just end up going home.
Do you remember that first time then when they do push you down, and what was your thoughts the minute you stopped?
I don't remember it exactly, but I remember like getting to the bottom and just thinking like, what the hell just happened? Like, I don't remember any of it. Like, all I remember was just like skidding, hitting some walls, like, yeah, like, I don't know, these ice walls coming at me, and yeah, getting down to the bottom, like stopping and just being like, I don't know what just happened.
That's crazy, because I can imagine it's one of those sports that if you say into things like roller coasters and sort of adrenaline based activities where you're going to get something more out of it, but potentially if you're like me and a wimp and don't like roller coasters, then you're probably going to be shitting yourself halfway down going, what the fuck is this? I'm never going to do this ever again.
Yeah, so I say this to a lot of people, but skeleton has ruined like roller coasters and all these adrenaline kind of activities. Yeah, for me. So yeah, they're completely dull now.
Wow. So just roller coasters are boring. You're just on your phone basically checking your Instagram or something like that if you're on a roller coaster.
Yeah, you know how like in on a roller coaster you'll get that kind of rush within inside you, and you're like,
Yep.
you feel kind of like light and that. Yeah, that's completely gone now.
Wow, that's insane. So is this a case then where you've got to like really find something, I don't know, even more adrenaline based than skeleton, which I don't know what there is, like Formula One car, skydiving. I mean, even then I don't know like how that would work. Is this kind of just the peak now? You can't find anything to really, quench that adrenaline rush taste that skeleton gives you.
I'd definitely like to try a Formula One car. I think that would be great. But we actually have a guy who slides for Australia who has skydived before, and he said skeleton's way more intense than skydiving.
Wow, that's insane. There you go. That's a good selling point for the sport. This is where, if they were to build a track in Australia, bit of a pipe dream, but sell it for the tourism aspect, the adrenaline junkies, like it's kind of bugger skydiving, try skeleton, and then we can also build the team up a little bit more and challenge the Germans, the Brits, all these sort of great nations of skeleton, so we can really push it up there. There's win-win for everyone there by building a track in Australia.
Oh, it'd be great because then we could slide in our winter, which is the Northern Hemisphere summer. So we could be sliding all year round. And that means we could even bring the internationals over here. Like they'd want to come to slide in their off season.
Yeah.
While it's summer for them. So I think, yeah, like obviously it would be very costly to build a track here. But I think you'd definitely get a lot of people coming.
I keep thinking, given that the Brisbane 2032 Olympics are technically a Winter Olympics, given they're being held in July in Australia, that you play your cards right with the AOC and the IOC and just be like, well, hey, it's a Winter Olympics, we might need a sliding track to go along with them. So again, there's some cards you might be able to play there.
Yeah, well, even if we don't actually build like a concrete track, there's a track in St. Moritz actually. They compact it and build it every year from the snow. So maybe even if like during that time we could just get a couple of hundred volunteers to like hand pack a snow in the mountains. Yeah, that'd be great.
That works because there are natural tracks still, aren't there? Like I think New Zealand has a natural track, don't they? And I'm sure, as you're saying, like other countries in the world probably have them. So I mean, it's a thing that doesn't have to be permanent. It could just be, like Thredbo or something like that. Get one out at Mount Hotham. I don't know. Sure, you could probably do something there with it.
Yeah, I think the one in New Zealand's more like a tourist kind of toboggan run, but I think Loos do have natural. I think they have a World Cup like natural circuit, so they do like naturally carve it each year. And yeah, there is one skeleton bobsled track that is used on the World Cup circuit each year, so it's definitely possible. And yeah, why not? That'd be great.
God,
how much fun would that be?
The right people are listening to this today, Nick, to try and to make that happen. Did you, growing up, sort of as a going through your athletics career, and I believe you've been in soccer as well, was it something that you always looked towards, like an Olympics? Was this something that while you were doing athletics, I mean, dreaming playing for the Socceroos and maybe, the Olyroos on the way? I mean, was the Olympics always a goal for you growing up?
I don't think, like you said, I did a lot of different sports. I don't think there was one like pinnacle I was aiming for. I think I just wanted to be like, see how high I could take myself. So I think I just wanted to just be really the best athlete I could be and see where that took me. And I'm very fortunate now that it has taken me to like the pinnacle event in my sport.
In terms of once you got over that first run on the sled and then kind of working your way through it, what's it like then going from the beginning stages to going on to say the World Cup scene and making your way up through the ranks, particularly from somewhere like Australia, where, as you mentioned, we're not obviously a country known too much for skeleton. I mean, is it challenging to come from a place like Australia to enter that scene, or are there sort of pathways that are created to help nations like Australia get involved in the sport more so you can go to the World Cup and then push towards an Olympics one day?
Yeah, so it is very challenging. I'd say coming from like a nation like Australia, or a smaller nation as they call it, I think your development curve takes longer, whereas these bigger nations who have so much funding, so much coaching, their development and improvement is a lot quicker just because they have that support network around them. But that doesn't mean you can't get to that level. I think it just takes a lot more time, patience, and just the determination within the individual to get there. And the international federation do try to put on like camps, and they give a bit of funding for these development athletes to kind of keep them in the sport and try help them get to the next level. So there is a bit of help. it's nowhere near the simulation. But if the individual definitely is dedicated enough, then yeah, you can get to that level.
What did you find the most challenging aspect of it once, again, you had that first run, you were doing more and more runs along the way? Was it the sliding aspect, the steering, making sure you were getting your lines right, everything like that? Was it involved in the starts? I mean, kind of what parts did you find it the most challenging when you were really getting heavily involved in the sport?
Yeah, so I think sliding wise, that like first camp, because I was so new to it, I was just kind of taking everything in. I had no expectations. But the start, because I came from a like sprinting background, like I thought I would be a good starter, but that wasn't the case. Like a skeleton start is completely different to a sprint. So I had the kind of expectation that I would be quick from the get-go. And it took me probably 2 to 3 years to actually figure out the technique and get quicker at the start. So I think that was frustrating. But all that time, like my sliding ability was improving. So I was happy in that regard. But yeah, there was definitely some challenges on the start. And yeah, I think adjusting to new tracks as you get to them, like there's different steering styles. So adjusting to them, like I said, we don't have the support network. So I think that takes us longer to maybe figure out corners and figure out tracks compared to some of the other nations. So yeah, sometimes that does get a bit like if you see some of these other bigger nations like get quicker and improve rapidly, then you might get a bit of, I don't know, self-doubt in yourself. But yeah, if you stick with it and try go back to like the fundamental and what you learn as a rookie, then yeah, you definitely can improve yourself.
What is it coming from athletics into skeleton, the technique? Is it, I mean, obviously as a sprinter, you're sort of more upright, whereas skeleton, I guess you're leaning over more, aren't you? I mean, is that kind of the main aspect of it, or is it a different style of sprinting that you've got to do for skeleton? And obviously not just for the surface differences between track and running on ice. I mean, kind of what was that took you those couple of years to really try to overcome to adapt to that style?
Yeah, I think the main thing is obviously sprinting, you're upright, and skeleton, you're bent over. So like getting your back and hip angle into a fast position, I think that's probably the thing that takes you the longest. You also got to remember when you're sprinting, it's just all your body weight, but pushing a skeleton sled, those first 3 to 5 steps, we're actually pushing the sled. So there is a bit of like strength aspect to it. And sometimes if you add weight to like a sprint, like your technique goes out the window. So that's kind of something you have to learn, as you're new to the sport and getting into it.
We had a couple of luge athletes on recently, and sort of they explained the methods involved in steering by laying on their back and kind of how there's a lot more to it than most people do. I know a couple of them mentioned about how Roy and HG destroyed the sport a lot for Australians because they just thought it was a lazy person sport. You just lay there and you don't do anything, when there's obviously a lot more to it. Is that similar to skeleton? Is in the fact that you're using different parts of your body to steer just like they do in luge, or is there something a little bit more different to it given you're facing a different way?
Yeah, it's definitely the case. So we use our shoulders and knees to steer. And if you watch a skeleton run and you don't see anything noticeable, then they are doing like hundreds of micro steers to get down the track. And that means they're doing a very good job of it. If you see someone like stick their foot out or drop their toe, that's an aggressive steer. That means they kind of put themselves into trouble or want to aggressively get on a different line. So like if you don't know anything about the sport and you see that, you might think, oh, this person only did one steer down the whole track. But that was only one like aggressive steer, one like kind of safety steer that they've done. And yeah, but if say we got someone who didn't know about the sport and put them down the track, they would be flying out of corners, hitting walls, like not doing those little steers will put them into trouble. And yeah, I don't think just the average person watching on the screen like sees this.
Fascinating. So is it a case of, obviously you can work on that technique off the sled, I can imagine. I mean, how do you work your body into a way where you can do micro steers and kind of get it so it does look seamless, that you are doing it without sort of those obvious movements that somebody like me would be seeing when I'm watching the sport?
It just comes from practice, really. Like I'll go down a track and I'll think I didn't do too many steers, or I'll think my form is good on the sled. But then you watch video and you'll see that your head's up, your shoulders up, like you're kind of not relaxed on the sled. So that's when you have to take in that feedback and go, okay, I need to relax more. I need to put my shoulders down. Like I need to, not stick my leg out here. And I think as you get more confident on a track, it becomes easier to relax and put your head down. So it just takes practice, really.
Do you have a favorite track that you compete on the world stage, and a least favorite track of all the ones that you do compete on?
I'd say I've got a couple of favorite tracks. Yeah, the more high speed, like technical tracks that kind of you need to do a lot of steers to get down like safely and fast. I think those are my more enjoyed tracks. There are tracks out there that like being very relaxed and doing subtle like soft steers is the fast line, but I think I'm more suited to the high speed technical tracks. So those probably would be Altenburg in Germany and Whistler in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Tracks I don't like. Let me think about that. I'd say there are a couple of, we call them boring tracks, but those tracks where you don't need to do those aggressive steers and the speed is lower. There's one in Austria called Eagles, and I'd say Winterberg in Germany is like that. So yeah, it's like I came into this sport to go fast, so when you have to go to those tracks, you kind of just like, it's kind of boring.
Yeah, may as well go on a roller coaster basically if you want to go slow, right? Like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, who needs to go on those ones? Is it a case with tracks that, I mean, particularly say at an Olympics where you've got 3 sports happening, you've obviously got luge, bobsled, and skeleton, and for the most part on World Cups, you don't have all 3 going. Does it get affected by those sports, or is there sort of ways that they fix the tracks up? So, for example, say if you're competing later towards the end of an Olympics and they've had the bobsled and the luge, does the track feel different on day 10 as it would to day 1? Like, whoever's competing first out of the 3 sports, are they getting the rub of the green, or are you getting the rub of the green because the track's worn in a lot more by the time you're competing, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so the different sports definitely do affect the tracks. Like on World Cup or even the lower circuits on tour during the seasons, if the luge circuit has been there before us, the corners will be a lot rounder. It's just for, I don't know why they need rounder corners to get out, really. I think, but yeah, so when we go to these tracks after luge, we can notice that the corners are rounder. It generally makes them a bit easier to get out of. There's not kind of like these sharp drop-offs that we might have. And in terms of bobsled, at something like the Olympics, the track crew is going to do maintenance between and after like every session, so it's good. But sometimes we'll go to tracks maybe on the lower circuits, and like bobsled will have gone before us and they won't do any track maintenance. So the tracks do, like it is visibly beaten up a bit, and some of the walls are like jagged, and you see ice chunks taken out from where they've hit. And
wow.
Yeah, you can definitely notice them. If you hit those walls, yeah, geez, that hurts.
Yeah, I can imagine. Those bloody bobsleds just ruin everything, right? Like, come on, guys. Like, they should be going down and fixing it up themselves, basically, if there's no maintenance people to do that in between them at some of those events.
Yeah, well, like we say that, but they say we run the track, but it's like, no, like, come on, you guys are doing all the damage.
And then we don't even get started on the luge. Like, come on, they just make it even worse, you know? Like, gosh, just, you know, they go that way. So when you're making your progress, sort of you started, I believe, in around 2012. So it was 2014, 2018 sort of Olympics. Were they either realistic possibilities? I mean, kind of what happened on the road to both Sochi and Pyeongchang, in the fact that did you nearly sort of make the team in either of those games?
So the first one, Sochi, definitely not. Like 2 years into the sport is definitely not enough time. Like you can't really get to a level, like an Olympic level in that time. This is a very like experience-based sport. So you need the years, you need the track runs. So yeah, that was never in the back of my mind. Like I was just still developing and learning. Pyeongchang, definitely. I did give it a good crack. I think I was in the top 60 in the world, which is the criteria for the Olympics at the moment. But so we had another slider, John Farrow, who represented Australia at those Olympics. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to qualify us 2 sleds at those Olympics. But having said that, if he wasn't competing at that time, my ranking and performance was good enough to get us 1 spot. So it was just unfortunate that we couldn't get the 2 spots. I think we would have had to beat either Switzerland or Austria for that 2nd spot. So yeah, it's pretty tough. And Australia
tricky.
in beating those kind of winter sport countries. So yeah, unfortunately, I was with that sport. I'm going to stick it out, and yeah, finally got here now.
Is it a case of when that happens and say you miss out on an Olympics or you get that close to it? I mean, do you use that as inspiration to kind of spur you on for another 4 years to go, okay, well, I was this close, I'm going to keep going? Or do you kind of take a step back for a little bit and kind of reassess your options to see if you're willing to go through another 4-year cycle?
At that time, I was definitely certain I was going to go for another one. Like I knew for us to get that second spot and me to qualify, like my performance needed to be better, and I knew I wasn't like at that level where we could qualify two sleds yet. So I knew I had a lot of development left and a lot of improvement. And yeah, at that time, I was definitely certain I was going to go for another 4 years. And yeah, I didn't take a break at all. So yeah, I'm happy I didn't.
And obviously in the lead up now, as we get closer to Beijing, I kind of gave a bit of a run through of some of the achievements that have happened literally in the last couple of months. Before we get to those, I mean, the challenges of COVID, though, I believe you sort of decided to go and base yourself in North America and Europe, obviously in the midst of a bit of uncertainty when it came to things like travel and border restrictions and all things like that. I mean, tell us a little bit about kind of everything that happened with that. And obviously it's paid off for you, but I can imagine it was obviously a bit of a tricky sort of decision to try and navigate everything that was happening ahead of the World Cup season.
Yeah, I think last season was actually the most difficult because, like, obviously COVID was a lot newer back then. No one really knew what was happening with it. There was a lot of lockdowns, lots of closures. But so the skeleton season was running ahead. They did actually freeze the rankings from the previous year. So none of those results counted towards like quota positions for this World Cup season this year. So I knew the results didn't really matter, but I said to myself, I need to go over and just slide and compete just so it could keep fresh and I could try and make some improvements. So yeah, I think it was January 2020, I decided to go to Europe and yeah, keep sliding. It was a big challenge, but I'm really glad I did. Ended up competing world champs that year. So it was like definitely worthwhile trip, but it was hard getting out. It was hard coming back in and yeah, but I think it definitely put me in a good standing coming into the start of this season.
So how long now, Nick, have you been away from Australia? Like how many months have you been out? And do you know if you can even get back in, particularly with WA's border laws at the moment?
So I'll go back to the end of last season. So I went away in January, February. I came back. I had to do 2 weeks in hotel quarantine. And so I was back in Perth for my off season, so up until October. And then, so for this Olympic season, I left at the start of October and I've been, outside of Australia since then. Yeah, and I just got told recently that my flight from, so Beijing, Singapore, Perth, so that Singapore Perth leg has been cancelled because of the closure. So they're flying me to Brisbane now, so I have to land in Brisbane and then, yeah, I'll sort out how to get home from there.
Wow. Okay then. Geez, yeah, because it seems to be a thing that every time the border's about to open in Western Australia, it seems to be being closed. So it might be a bit of a
Yeah, it's a
refugee.
nightmare.
Yeah, Western Australian refugee for a while there until they sort of. But again, you could play the Olympic card, Nick. Come on, you're an Olympian. Surely they can give you something there coming back home from the Olympics. It's got to give you some sort of special treatment at the border.
Luckily, I've got a friend who lives in Brisbane, so I can stay with him for at least a few days or, yeah, however long. But, yeah, I am currently talking with Wace about trying to get back into WA. And I think they're asking a few questions here and there. So I'll see what they come back with. But at least if that does become a struggle, I have a friend in Brisbane I can stay with.
I'm sure a gold medal might also help, but you know we can talk about that. But I mean, your season obviously had a fantastic season, as I mentioned at the top. I mean, you finished 19th in Altenburg, your highest ever position in the World Cup. I mean, what was that like to get a top 20? I mean, that must be a pretty amazing feeling to get that place, particularly in a season which is in the lead up to the Olympic Games.
Yeah, so result was special. So this year, the World Cup field has actually increased and it's become a lot stronger. Like China has come in strong. There's 3 Korean sleds in the World Cup now. I think there's 3 GB, there's 3 Germans, 3 Russians. So it is a very stacked field. So that 19th for me, So my previous World Cup best was I've got two 20ths before. So this 19th was actually my best World Cup result. And yeah, in such a strong field, I was definitely pleased with that. But not only that, it was on the Altenburg track, which previously I'd only been to twice before. So I didn't have much experience there. So getting that result was, yeah, it was definitely a big bonus. And yeah, something I'm very proud of.
And then to add to that, North America's Cup champion, won a couple of races in that as well. Be the first time you've won some skeleton races. So, yeah, must be feeling pretty confident with some pretty good results in your back pocket leading into Beijing.
Yeah, so like, I was fortunate enough to get my first win and then back it up with another win in Lake Placid. But yeah, that North American Cup overall title, I didn't even realize I'd won it until it was the Spanish slider who came second. On the last day, he told me that I'd got him by 2 points, and I wasn't even factoring that overall title in at that time. I was just looking. I just needed some good results for my Olympic standing. So yeah, that was an added bonus while I was there. Yeah, it was good to get that one. Yeah.
So what do you get for that? Is there some sort of is a nice trophy? I mean, kind of some perks. Kind of what comes with winning the North American Cup?
Yeah, it's more just a little trophy and a bit of bragging rights. I think. Yeah, not much else, but. Yeah, I think the more important thing was those 2 wins and the points that came with that for the Olympic qualification.
Not like a fancy one of these crystal globe style things that they have in some of the other events, because I think some winter sports have some of the best trophies out there. I mean, when we had Greta Small on, she said she won a tub of Chupa Chups for winning a race once. So I don't know if there was something special for North America. They need to make something then if it's only a little trophy. Come on, North America, you guys are the home of excess. This should be something giant and big going on with it.
So they actually, yes. So the trophy, yeah, like you said, Crystal Globe, that would be nice. But yeah, I think that's the World Cup overall title. So I didn't get one of those, unfortunately. But they did give us maple syrup as a prize for it. So
right.
Yeah, we enjoyed that.
Okay, well, that's something. I mean, was this, I'm hoping, Canadian maple syrup, at least? It wasn't, American maple syrup, was it?
It was American maple syrup, but it was from the Adirondack region, which is where the track is. So it was local maple syrup. And it was actually pretty nice. So yeah, I can't complain.
Okay, that's good then. All right. Can you use maple syrup for any benefit in skeleton? If you put a bit on the slides or anything like that going down, or is that considered maybe a little bit illegal potentially?
I think that would slow you down more than anything. Yeah, I think it's more energy in the morning, really. That's the only benefit, yeah.
Okay, helps with the legs, helps with the burn, kind of going on there for that one as well. I mean, heading into the Olympics, obviously, with yourself and Jacqueline, I mean, obviously Jacqueline's just, won a World Cup event, great result for her. So, I mean, what is the move between you and her kind of heading into these Olympics? Bit of a tension for you both with how successful you've been, and do you kind of set yourself targets? Do you set yourself goals going into the Olympics, position, medals, things like that?
I think the first goal was just getting to the Olympics. So many athletes are going down with COVID and not being able to do some races and getting around different countries. So I think our goal before the actual last qualifying race was to get all the races in, get us in a good standing to be able to qualify the sport. And now that we've got it, I think we can reassess our goals for the Olympics. But I'll have to speak to my coach and we'll do some homework in that, and then. After training's finished, I think we can really assess where the goal for the positioning will be at the Olympics. But yeah, like I said, just because of COVID, I think getting to this point and staying healthy was the major and a very big win.
You mentioned Lucy before, the other Western Australian skeleton athlete. She finished 17th in 2014. Best result by a male skeleton racer was from John Farrow back in Sochi, also 17th. So I'm just trying to see here that if we can go at least for 16th, that would be pretty good. Emma's got the record at 10th. So, I'm just trying to put a bit of pressure on you and Jacqueline's shoulders here a bit. But, we always like to top previous results. So just think 17th or better or 10th or better. And then you come home and then, boom, it's been a great result.
Yeah, all right. I'll aim for that 17th then. That'll be my target.
Yes, exactly. Perfect. I like that. The track itself, which looks amazing, you've got a 360-degree turn, which I believe is the longest in the world. Goes under a hotel, and there's sort of inclines and declines, kind of almost looks like a Mario Kart track. I mean, have you ever seen a track like this? Can this be compared to anything at all? And how much are you looking forward to kind of going out there in anger and competing on this track in Beijing?
Yeah, so I haven't actually seen it in person. I've only seen video and photos of it. I wasn't able to get to the test event in October just because of costs involved and COVID. But yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this track. I've heard that it's very challenging, which is kind of up my alley, and yeah, which is what I enjoy. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to get out there and yeah, see it for myself.
With the 360-degree turn, how far are we away then from a loop-de-loop? So basically, I'm thinking your roller coasters, they're boring. So if a skeleton track can have one in it, I'm sure it will go faster and better. I mean, is that logistically possible? Can we think Milan 2026? If the Italians are listening and they haven't built their track yet, we can just go full-on fancy like that to really, attract some more eyes to the sport and make it even more awesome?
Yeah, that'd be amazing if it had a kamikaze loop in it, wouldn't it? Yeah, I would definitely pay to slide in that and pay to see that there. I'll flick some emails around and send some messages like, hey, why don't we add this to the next skeleton track?
Please do. If not, the Brisbane track. I mean, look, I can see it working for the luge and the skeleton. Don't know about the bobsled, but they can have their own track. The bobsled's ruin everything, so we'll stick to that for that one there. But I mean, again, it's always about attracting the kids into the sport. We want more people involved in skeletons, so I mean, you have that aspect to it. Boom, you lock yourself in, I feel.
Yeah, I don't think these kids' parents and mums in particular will be too happy about that though.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you got to go against kind of everything with that in itself and, create your own sort of things there. So, I mean, again, we were talking a little bit off air and you were sort of mentioning before things like the opening ceremony, everything along those lines. We're talking to you now from Austria at the time of recording this. So you fly to Beijing, you get yourself ready into the village, training, everything along those lines. Do you kind of you obviously get a schedule planned, everything along those lines, but how do you find yourself mentally able to keep yourself in the zone when it comes to a competition? Because I can imagine an Olympics is a little bit different to, say, a World Cup. I mean, do you have preferences? Do you meditate? Do you read? Do you listen to some music? Kind of what's some mental preparation that you like to try and keep yourself in a zone for when it comes up to the lead up to a competition like this?
I think like kind of getting out of the skeleton brain, like being able to focus on something else while you're away from the track is very important. You don't want to be thinking about all the corners, like what you need to do, like all the time. You're just going to mentally burn out. So I think downtime and relaxing outside of the track is very important. But then when you get to the track, I think that's when the concentration and the focus needs to come in. And I think I'd say most athletes, it would come naturally, just the size of the tracks and the kind of the occasion kind of brings that focus to everyone. And yeah, it's definitely the same with me. Like I'll get to a track and be like, okay, like it's go time now. I'll think about what I need to do, like the preparation I've done and trust the training I've done. And I think luckily for me, it seems to come naturally that I can focus when I do get to the track and on race days. But yeah, I think, it might be different for some athletes, but I'm sure it will be the same at the Olympics. Just a bigger occasion. I'll probably definitely have more nerves, but I think the processes will be the same.
And it also must be a case of the attention that an Olympics does bring to the sport. And this is what I always love talking to our winter Olympians about, because a lot of the time you're not getting the attention, say in Australia, that other sports, say a summer sport, would get. So this is a real opportunity to showcase everything that you and Jacqueline in the sport have been working towards, but just the sport itself. So do you find that adds pressure, or do you find that is something that you relish, the fact that you can now have people experience something that you've dedicated a large chunk of your life towards, and now people can finally see what you've achieved, but also what the sport is like, and hopefully might be able to attract some people to it in the future?
I think, I can't speak for Jackie, but I think I'm definitely going to relish the chance to show what we do to the rest of Australia. Like obviously you don't see it a lot back home. No one really knows what it is. Like I said before, like a lot of people just think we're laying there. They don't really understand the steers and that. So I think being able to talk about it and show people, what we do. I'm sure the commentary team, like while we're sliding, will give some insights into the sport. And be able to give a little bit of what we do and how we go about it to the general public. And I hope, like I think most people think it's like a pretty cool sport and pretty out there. But if we can, get some more interest into people actually wanting to try it, then that'll be great. I'm definitely relishing the chance to show what we do to the rest of Australia.
Do you name your sled, Nick? Does it have a name, and do you talk to it when you're going down a track at all?
I don't have a name for mine. I know a lot of people do, but I just call mine my sled. And I definitely do talk to it down the bottom. If I have a good run, I'll pat it and say, good job. Well, that's the kind of extent of it.
I've got to try and get this out there. I've tried this. I did this with Bree and Kiara for the bobsled. Just if you want to call it Ben, it's fine. You're allowed to. I'll give you permission, and you can cheer on. We can cheer on Ben down the track. And technically, then, can we consider myself to be a Winter Olympian because you've named the sled Ben? So living through the journey as well. So again, you haven't got a name, but take Ben if you want. That's all yours to use.
All right, I'll consider that. And even if I don't name it, it can spiritually be Ben.
I like it. There you go. See, kind of working these ways to sneak in there, Nick, any way we can. We've got some questions that we like to close out just in terms of just a fun little get-to-know-you style questions. But one thing I've actually noticed, which I'm very happy for, that the AOC have done on the olympics.com.au website, they've actually done their own sort of bit of a questionnaire with you heading into it. And just a couple of things I wanted to touch on here. First of all, your favourite sporting moment. Great one here. Socceroos qualifying for the 2006 World Cup. Where were you? Where were you watching it? And do you remember it vividly when Aloisi kicked that penalty to send us to Germany back then in 2005?
Yeah, I think sure, I do remember that moment. I think so my first job was at Hungry Jack's back in Perth. And I think I was on shift that day and we were watching it in the back. When he scored
Nice.
it, like we were just like, we ran out into the shop and like everyone was yelling. And it was definitely a great moment. I loved it.
I can imagine everybody getting their burgers that day will be going, what the hell's going on? But when they realised what it was just like, free burgers for everyone. Come on, celebrate the occasion.
The funny thing was, like, during the penalty shootout, no one was getting their burgers because we weren't doing anything.
Bit slow that time.
It was like, please hold on. Like, we've got the soccer to watch.
Perfect excuse, essentially, to not serve there. Another thing I like here on your hobbies when you're not training, watching movies, collecting Game Boys, and sipping coffee. Now, collecting Game Boys, Nick, how many do you have, and how did this hobby come about?
I've probably got about like 10, but like I think COVID kind of inspired this hobby. Like I was in quarantine and I was just playing Pokemon on my Game Boy, and I was like, I wonder if there's a better Game Boy. Like, can I get other ones and different games? And that's kind of where it spiraled from. And I think I've got about 10 now. And
wow.
Do you enjoy it?
Do you use them all, or is it kind of a case of like, oh no, I can't touch like the clear Game Boy Pocket? That's my special one. I'll never play that one.
Like I don't have that kind of rule that I won't play certain ones, but obviously you can't play them all at the same time. So I'll just pick one and play the game on it. Like obviously depending on which game you have, you're going to use the attached Game Boy to it. So like I don't have any rules about protecting this one or kind of that thing. But I just love playing them. And like I said, like quarantine brought about that I guess boredom to start playing them again.
Nice. I got to ask you, but you mentioned Pokemon. It's the first time I think I've ever been able to ask this question to one of our guests on the show. But do you have a preference? Like, are you old school? Are we going blue, red, yellow, gold, silver? Or are we kind of going more into the newer versions of it, or a bit of a mix of all of them?
I think definitely the older ones, like red, blue, green, yellow, and then probably crystal and ruby, I'd say. So obviously these were from back in the day when I was a kid. So they definitely have a soft spot within me. I haven't played too much of the newer ones, obviously, just because of life. But I'd say I do enjoy the older ones.
I think the first one I ever had was yellow, and I think
me too, actually.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're the same when you get it. You just completely addicted, and you just never want to get off the damn thing. And then I remember when Gold and Silver comes about, you're like, how am I going to learn 100 new Pokemon? Like I've memorized all 150, and now there's like about 3,000 or something like that, isn't it? I don't even know how many there are now. I've lost track.
Yeah, I don't know either, but yeah, like yeah, it was definitely like that. Like, but I think it's exciting. Like when you were that young and new ones were coming out, you're like, yes, like I've got another game. I've got all these things to catch, and yeah. I think back then it was great, and yeah, like you said, yeah, I didn't get off it either.
Yeah, no, that's what you do. And the other one here I like. If you're stuck on a desert island and can only have three things, you've got a coffee machine, a fishing rod, and a Baby Yoda figurine. Now, not is that for luck? Is that just because you love Baby Yoda? I mean, what purpose does that serve you on the desert island there, Nick?
Actually, I forgot I wrote that, and my cousin in Japan actually sent me that, and yeah, I was laughing. But I think at the time I was just like, if I was stuck on a desert island by myself, like I need a couple things, but then just something to keep me company, and like everyone loves Baby Yoda, so yeah, that's what I put.
That's a good one. I like that. That works very, very well. Now, another thing or two I like, obviously, and I'm sure people will learn a lot of this throughout the coverage of that. You're a twin, of course. Now, does Dean do skeleton as well? Is he sort of out there with it, or is he kind of he doesn't want to go out there, and is he a bit of a wimp or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, no, he's done skeleton since I started as well, so he's been on the 10-year journey I have as well, and like unfortunately we again couldn't qualify the two sleds this time, so yeah, only one of us gets to go. But yeah, he came with me at the start of the season. We did some races together, and yeah, unfortunately, obviously, we couldn't qualify too. So yeah, he's gone home back to Perth now.
Right, and not meaning to call him a wimp, of course. He's not a wimp, obviously, out there doing that. So he can't, obviously, is it down to like restrictions and things like that? He unfortunately can't travel with you to Beijing to cheer you on?
Yeah, so we only have a certain amount of allocated staff spots and that kind of thing. Like they're being very strict with it. So yeah, that's the reason why we can't have the people we want there really.
Does it though then allow him to create like a big watch party back in Perth? Like is sort of already talking about, because obviously with the time difference, it's not going to be too bad. So I can imagine that it's going to be at a good time that maybe you can get the family and the friends over to the house or a pub or something like that to kind of cheer you on when you're competing.
Yeah, so I think there is one already organised at the Western Australia Institute of Sport. So I think, yeah, that's going to happen, and that's been organised. So, yeah, hopefully they get a lot of people there.
Fantastic. Great. Well, there you go. Everybody listening in that part of the world, keep an eye out, and maybe you can go along and cheer Nick along the way. Now, Nick, we like to close out with a set of get-to-know-you style questions. Now, these are based off a Team Canada questionnaire that they gave their athletes ahead of both Pyeongchang and Rio, and we're really hoping they are bringing it back for Beijing because they didn't unfortunately have it for Tokyo. And as always, we like to use the questionnaire that they give to an athlete from the same sport, and luckily for us, there is a Canadian skeleton racer here by the name of Jane Chanel, and we're going to base these off this question. Now, there's a drawing element, Nick, which again, as we always say, you don't have to. If you feel the need to do some extra homework, you're most welcome to do some drawings, but you don't. How are your drawing skills? Are you an avid drawer or don't really give a shit?
I'd say they're average to mediocre.
Okay, all right then. Well, again, I'll leave that up to you. You might have some things that you kind of got arranged in the coming days ahead of the Olympics. But we'll start off. Your favourite all-time Olympic moment is? I'd
say it has to be Stephen Bradbury winning the gold in 2002. As an Australian, like, it has to be that one.
Absolutely. I always appreciate that answer. And 20th anniversary of it, can you believe, in the coming weeks, we're going to be celebrating 20 years of that. So amazing. I do love here that Jane, of course, has mentioned John Montgomery's win back in Vancouver. We had John on the show last year, and I mean, like that really, I think, boosted the sport, watching him scull beers and just, go off and that sort of stuff. Have you ever had a chance to bump into John at all or meet John Montgomery in the past?
Yeah, when I was a young slider, I think as I was starting, he was kind of wrapping up his career. So I definitely did see him around. He did some commentary as well for some of the World Cups, like early on. Yeah, so he has been around. I've seen him around.
Nice. And of course, host of Amazing Race Canada. So just saying, when you do retire, The guy who's hosting the Amazing Race in Australia right now, he's no Grant Bowler. So, I mean, if you're looking for a secondary career, you can host Amazing Race Australia. It seems to be the path of a lot of skeleton athletes. So, it's in your cards, maybe.
I think I'd rather be on the Amazing Race Australia rather than host it.
There you go. All right. You and Dean, that's perfect pairing. Skeleton races touring the world. That would work. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
If the producers are listening, hopefully they'll get you on board there. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
I think it'd have to be to be able to fly.
Yep. Which you're kind of halfway there in a weird way, aren't you? Because I think I read in an interview you did that it almost feels like flying sometimes. So just kind of that adrenaline, everything along those lines. That you want to add to it a little bit more.
Yeah, well, like feeling like flying and actually flying is completely different. And on that, I've been in so many airplanes and I'm getting so sick of them with all the bag fees as well. So if I can just fly to these places myself, that'd be perfect.
That's the best way of looking at it, saving on those damn bag fees. So, yeah, no, I like that one. Your favorite sports movie is?
I reckon 42.
Yes, that's a great movie. Doesn't get answered a lot, but yeah, fantastic. That was how many years was that before Chadwick
That's a good
Boseman?
movie.
Yeah, it was a while before Black Panther as well, wasn't it? So, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, maybe a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always forget Harrison Ford's in that movie. Just randomly, like, oh, there's Harrison Ford just popping up in it.
Yeah,
great
it's
movie.
a great
Good
movie.
answer. Love it. Your funniest childhood memory is?
I'd say, so obviously having a twin brother, we were a handful for our parents. I reckon we had these laundry baskets. There was two of them, and we used to put them on our heads and just like run at each other. And so our mum used to like come outside and just see us like running into each other with these laundry baskets on our head. And I remember us just like toppling over and like just cracking up laughing. I think that's probably, funniest childhood memory.
Wow, I like it. Laundry baskets were never safe in the household, it sounds like, just constantly being used. Great. Your favorite pump-up song is?
I don't know if I have a particular one, but I definitely like house music to get me going. Just the high tempo of it really gets me going. I'd say something from Swedish House Mafia probably up there.
Ooh, nice. You like their new ones that they've got? It sounds a little bit different to some of their stuff, but it's not too bad.
Yeah, I do like it actually. Yeah, I've been listening to it. Yeah, it's definitely different, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm glad they're back together.
Is it a case of pre-run, like you're about to go down the track? Do you have the AirPods in? Do you have yourself kind of in the zone listening to it, or is that kind of something that's done a little bit more sort of earlier in the day potentially to pump you up?
I'd say definitely when I'm at the track, but maybe like 15 to 20 minutes before the run, I'll take them out and start like focusing. And yeah, just like you obviously have to watch out for the start list so you don't miss your run. So you'll take note of that. So I'd say about 15 to 20 minutes before my run, I take them out. But yeah, before that, like while I'm warming up and that, I'll have them in.
Perfect. What is the most recent TV show that you binge watched?
So I'm watching Ozark at the moment, the new season.
Okay. And what do you think of it?
Yeah, I'm enjoying it. Yeah. And while I was in Whistler this season, because I knew the new season was coming out, I watched all 3 seasons in 1 week. So,
nice.
So definitely Ozark is
convenient.
The one I've binge watched.
Go through it. I love it. Good work. Growing up, who was your favorite sports team?
Ooh. So I was always a soccer player, so I did like soccer teams, but my dad was actually born in Melbourne and he is a big AFL fan. So we grew up barracking for the Saints. So I'd say even though I liked soccer and played soccer more, I'd say we probably barracked for the Saints like the most, yeah.
Wow, I was gonna actually ask you if there was AFL in the blood if you're an Eagles or a Dockers fan, but bugger both of them. You go for the Saints, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that mean then you, with the soccer side of things though, that you're a big Glory fan kind of on that page?
We do enjoy going to watch Glory games, but I think I'm more interested in like the Premier League. Yeah,
No, who's your team? Who's your team then, Nick, in the Premier League?
So I've supported Liverpool ever since Harry Kewell moved there. So ever since then, it's been Liverpool.
No, you've had a good couple of years. You'd be pretty happy then. So, you're doing all right. That's okay.
Yeah. I don't like saying it now because people are like, oh, you're just supporting them because they're good.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm a Manchester United guy. So as a kid, I was allowed to gladly say that and jumped on the bandwagon. But now, I mean, at least I still say I'm still stuck by them, even though we haven't done well in a while. So, swings and
Yeah,
roundabouts,
that's
right?
true.
You got to go through the hard. I mean, as a St Kilda supporter, I mean, I don't need to say that about you got to stick with them for a while. So,
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, I'm a Carlton supporter, so I'm just like I'm hopeful that you don't win a premiership soon because if St Kilda win a premiership, Carlton officially had the longest drought in the AFL for premiership, so that's not a good thing as a Carlton
Oh,
supporter.
okay, there you go.
So just if St Kilda supporters out there hate Carlton, then even more incentive to win the premiership sometime soon. So yeah,
I
all
don't
these
think they hate
droughts have been
Carlton. Everyone hates
broken.
Collingwood, don't they?
Well, true. Yeah, bugger Collingwood. So there you go. Your least favourite foods are?
I'm like not fussy with food at all, but my least favorite, I'd say yogurt actually. Like I do eat
Oh,
it for the benefits, but yeah, I don't enjoy eating yogurt.
interesting. Is that like a texture thing, or just not a fan of it in general? Or because I know it's kind of one of those things where the texture can put people off.
Yeah, I think texture and maybe smell sometimes and taste. Yeah, just all combined. Yeah, like I do eat yogurt because for the benefits, but yeah, I definitely say I don't enjoy eating yogurt.
There you go. Okay. If you weren't an athlete, what would you be?
Oh, if I was an athlete, what would I be? I'd say I'd be working in some business firm somewhere. Yeah, like I do. Like I think I have more of a maths brain, so I think yeah, something to do with numbers or something like that, maybe.
Okay, I like that. I love Jane's answer here. She says a dinosaur expert, something we all should strive to be. So,
There you go. I should have said astronaut then.
hey, well, look, you could be an astronaut, dinosaur expert, accountant, all in one, who wins Olympic golds and goes on the amazing race. So, ticking off all the boxes. What is your favorite, or where is your favorite vacation spot?
I'd say it'd have to be Japan. Yep.
Nice. Nice. Which, obviously, given the current restrictions, it's not like you can kind of sneak over there after the Olympics, sadly. So, have you? How many times have
Yeah,
you
very
been to?
unfortunate.
Have you been there multiple times, or just the once? Or
Yeah, so since I was about 15, we have gone to Japan every single year before COVID hit. So quite a few times.
wow, nice. And is there obviously I don't know if the track in Nagano or Sapporo still exists, but do they have any tracks on the World Cup stage at all that you can compete on?
So yeah, like you said, the Nagano tracks, I think they stopped doing races on that track in probably about 2008, maybe.
Right.
But it was open just for general sliding for the Japanese up until I think it was about 3 years ago. So we were actually fortunate enough to be able to slide on that track. But yeah, I've never actually done a proper race on that.
Is Beijing the closest track then to Australia now? Or, I mean, in terms of distance, or is Pyeongchang closer? Like, or is there another one that I'm not thinking of that's closest to Australia?
Yeah, it'd have to be Beijing or Pyeongchang. I don't actually know which one would technically be closer. I think maybe Beijing. So Beijing might be the actual closest track to Australia now. Yeah.
There you go. Home track, Nick. Just extra pressure for you. It's the home track for you and Jackie because it's the closest to Australia.
Just got to get through all the PCR tests and get let in the country.
Exactly. There you go. Simple. What is something that people usually describe you as?
I'd say definitely laid back.
Laid back. Okay, that's a good one. I like it. If you could be an Olympian in any other sport other than your own, what would it be?
With the additions in Tokyo, I reckon now definitely skateboarding.
Ah, yes. Nice. That would work. I could see that. I'm actually intrigued. I believe in Milan we've got ski mountaineering making its debut. So I think this is something we need
I
to.
heard some of the skiing events are coming back. Yeah.
Yeah, which looks pretty amazing. So, we've obviously got breakdancing coming into Paris. So there's these kind of new, unique sports that a lot of people don't really think of. So, yeah, skateboarding was pretty popular. So just, yeah, I like it, kind of keeping those options open. What is your guilty pleasure? Now, this isn't a guilty, usually it's guilty pleasure food. It's just guilty pleasure in general. Do you have one at all?
Oh, I'd say mine would be food. Yeah, I love food.
Yeah.
I'd say pizza. It's got to be pizza.
Oh, yeah. Now, two-part question. First of all, pineapple, yes or no on pizza?
Like I said before, I'm not fussy with food at all, so I'll eat pineapple. I eat
You like
anchovy. Like put anything on the pizza, I'll eat it.
anything on it? Anything on it? And well, my next part was like, do you have a favorite pizza, or is it just a case of just I don't give a shit, just give me all the pizza?
Before I left Perth for the season, I was actually going around to like the different restaurants and like trying their margaritas to see which one's the best.
Nice.
So I did eat a lot of margaritas before I left, but I'm definitely a toppings guy, so I do enjoy toppings like
Have you
salami, mushroom, yeah,
go for
all those
those
kind of
ones?
things.
Have you been to many of those ones where it's kind of like I like to call them the subway of pizza, where you basically just get the blank canvas and you can make whatever the hell you want? Those are my favorite places. I mean, do you enjoy those ones where you can be a bit of experimental and kind of just have whatever you want on it with those toppings?
So we actually don't have too many of them back in Perth, but there is one of them in Park City, which is one of our stops, and which is one of the stops I visited this year. So yeah, I was making my own pizzas. And yeah, I do enjoy that as well.
They're fun. They're really good. I feel they need to take off in more places. So there you go. The last bit on here, which again,
Yeah, I agree.
it's the drawing bit, Nick. If you want to, if you're an animal, you can draw one here. I mean, Jane's drawn a sloth because she's written they're my favorite. And it's an okay drawing of a sloth. So if you were to draw an animal, what would you draw? What would you think yourself as?
Probably penguin actually. I'd say
Ah,
penguin.
nice. Okay. Any particular reason? Just a fan of the penguins, or relate to a penguin?
Well, they kind of chilled out. They like just stand around all day, like very chilled, and obviously they slide on their bellies. So yeah, it's pretty
Hey,
appropriate, I reckon.
that's perfect. See, I mean, look, sled, Ben the penguin. That's the sled. That's right there. You can put penguin stickers on it next to the Australian sort of insignia there. You can decorate it, put it on the helmet, all that kind of stuff. You can be the penguin skeleton racer. I can see this really
Yeah.
taking off. Put it out there. Fantastic. Nick, before we let you go, for people who want to follow you during the Olympics, the journey, anything along those lines, social media, websites, anything like that, where can people sort of stay up to date with what you're up to?
Yeah, I usually use Instagram the most, so it's n.timmings on Instagram. Yeah, and I think I'm active there at the most. Yeah, and I'll try to be as active as I can during the Olympics.
Yeah, perfect. We'll be keeping an eye on that. Of course, we're going to be really excited to cheer you on, watch the Olympics, everything along those lines to see you out there. 10th of February is when you're going out there on runs 1 and 2, and then the 11th of February. So into basically the second week. So we'll be counting down. Then here and off the podium, we'll be talking you up. We'll be making sure we're following it every step of the way, and really cheering you on, Nick. But best of luck. We're looking forward to seeing you go out there 17th or better. We know it's possible, and keep on pushing through there. And yeah, best of luck. And we really appreciate your time here and off the podium today.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hope everyone can, watch all the Australians during the Winter Olympics and, get behind us all. So, yeah, thank you.